So for those that are uninitiated, if this is your first webinar of ours that you're joining, here's the deal. We do these webinars on a monthly basis, usually the third or fourth Wednesday of the month, depending on holidays and stuff like that. What our goal is to use these webinars as a vehicle for folks to keep up to date with what's going on with technology, not spend a ton of time on it, right? So we do half an hour of content and then we answer questions. So if you have questions, pop them into the Q&A panel as we go, and we'll make sure that we stay on and answer any of those questions after the fact. I am joined by Jermaine Clark, who is Techify's VP of Operations. As usual, Jermaine, welcome.
Thank you, Brendan. Happy to be here. 21 is a good age, so lots of cool stuff you can start doing at 21. So.
Yep, we're now US drinking legal. This is our 21st webinar in a row. This is very exciting. The world is just going to open up to us now. So let's get right into it. So remember, Q&A panel as we go along. Oh, and one other kind of heads up, we're going to do some live demo stuff. So a live demo, it's a little bit like a NASCAR race, right? You watch it, you don't know if there's going to be a fiery car wreck or if it's just going to be an entertaining race. Either way, hopefully this will be useful to you as we go along. Here's what we're wanting to answer. This is the big question. What is SharePoint? Okay, so SharePoint is a secure place to store, organize, share, and access information from any device. So basically what SharePoint is, it's your cloud-based secure file storage, right? We're all used to having Z drives, S drives, I drives, whatever you call it from a business to business perspective. SharePoint becomes that Z drive or S drive or whatever, right? And it allows you to use modern technology. Right? We're finding we're talking to people, file servers, the conventional way of storing files. It's based on technology from the 1980s. SharePoint is much more modern technology. It's been evolving over the last number of years, and it's become super, super important in the last couple of years as we're all working differently, remote, hybrid, maybe sometimes remote, sometimes in the office.
And even SharePoint, Brendan, used to be on-prem at one point.
Yeah, so SharePoint has evolved. It used to not be. That's a very good point. Here's the other thing about SharePoint. Well, maybe Jermaine, why don't you take this one? People are like, well, it's SharePoint, OneDrive. Like, what the heck's the difference between the two of them?
Oh, yeah, we get this one a lot. And the primary difference is that SharePoint is accessible by everyone in the organization. So that's the world organization-wide storage facility that exists for your organization. And OneDrive is your personal storage, right? That's the place that you put all of your secret files that are only accessible by you, and you control all the permissions to invite people to see those files. So SharePoint, everybody; OneDrive, yourself, personal storage.
Yeah, let me add one thing to that I was just thinking about, because I had a conversation with a business yesterday. And they were talking about OneDrive, and they're like, well, we tried OneDrive, but it's like, it doesn't work very well. And people were having issues accessing, and we had access to some. And it's like, yeah, because that's not what it's for. Right. It's not for the whole company, right? It's your personal file storage. It's like you can share stuff out every once in a while, but it's going to be a total cluster if you try and run all of your files out of OneDrive. Right.
SharePoint is the real way to do that, because that's the catch-all people one for sure.
Yeah, and one of the cool things about SharePoint is, of course, it integrates with Teams, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But you can make it right part of Teams. Like, Teams is becoming a hub for all sorts of stuff in workplace and collaboration, that sort of stuff, as we will be talking about in our webinar next month. So let's talk about why people are moving to SharePoint. So we did a little bit of a poll. Actually, speaking of polls, Jermaine, we should probably do a poll. Look at our poll question here. We had I I think we've had just about everybody. See, we have a few people haven't answered a poll, maybe because I didn't remind them when they joined. But if you haven't answered our poll question, please pop up. We've had about 80% or so of folks that are on the webinar have answered, and it looks like the most interesting thing that people are looking to find out about is how to share documents, how to have multiple people work on the same documents, version control. So we'll get into that. I'll leave this open for a minute. Jermaine, there's people are interested in how to access SharePoint and security and stuff like that, but not as interested in the sharing piece, the concurrent collaboration, and version control, version history. So we'll spend a little. Why don't we spend a little bit more time on that?
Yeah.
We'll allow people to do the choose your own adventure version of webbinaring.
How do we share something when it's not in our closet in the server, right? So it's good.
Yeah.
Good way.
Okay. So back at it. Why are people moving to SharePoint? So what's the reason? So as I was starting to say, we did a little bit of a review of our client base, and we now have over 60% of our client base is on SharePoint. And using SharePoint for files and stuff like that. So we're getting into the large majority. Actually, large majority in politics, I think they would call it like a super majority. So large majority of folks using SharePoint. Here's why. We need to be more productive, right? There's this goal. We've been talking about this goal for a few years. Forrester's came out with a study on Microsoft 365, and one of the key kind of summaries of it was you can save 4 hours per week per employee if you use Microsoft 365 the way that it's designed, and one of those ways is by using SharePoint and changing how people work. And we've seen, like, we've been using SharePoint for years. We've seen a huge boost in productivity from internally with our company, but we've also seen it with a lot of clients.
Yeah.
And Jermaine just has people calling him all day saying, thank you for moving us to SharePoint,
Yeah,
right?
they have time to call me now. Good.
Yeah, but on a more serious note, we all are looking for having challenges with finding people, skill shortages, labor shortages, that sort of stuff. So if we can use technology better, and here's how SharePoint actually saves that time, right? First of all, we get rid of VPN. That could save, half an hour a week, right? We actually having to dial in, dealing with periodic technical issues, dealing with disconnects, the various things that VPN does. It's inherently, it's inherently clunky, right?
Yeah, it's cumbersome to use. Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of people are really happy just to get rid of VPN, us included. So
we also see a lot of issues coming in from VPNs, like especially with the work hybrid situation is a big challenge, because people will connect to their VPN, then they'll get into the office and can't figure out why it takes 3 minutes for them to print. And it's because their VPN's still logged in. They're going through the VPN, going back to their house, coming back to the office, and then printing on the network. So it causes some challenges from an operational perspective, because you got to remember to turn it off. And then when you don't, there's a disconnect. If you try to change your password, you can't sync because the VPN is off. And there's a whole mess of issues and challenges that people have around just having VPN function properly. So,
it's a really good application to make people feel dumb.
Yeah.
Because, hey, here's another one. You change your password. If you don't input the new password into your VPN client, you can't connect. So you sit there in the morning saying, why can't I connect? Why can't I connect? And then somebody tells you have to change that password. And you're like, oh, such a stupid thing, right? Another area, getting rid of multiple versions of documents, the sort of email overload that we all have, where you have people emailing attachments back and forth, and here's this version, and Jermaine, is this the latest version of this, or can you email me, where's that document, is this, like, what do we do with this? And it's like, I don't know, anybody ever feel like this with email?
I used to, yeah, not today though.
Yeah. So let's cut out a whole bunch of junk out of our email, right? A whole bunch of attachments. There's also an environmental kind of impact of that too. Funny enough, there's actual greenhouse gas emissions that each email leads to. We talked about that in a previous webinar. It's kind of fun. The other reason that we're seeing a lot of people are moving to SharePoint is it is more secure, right? A lot of people bring up, whoa, if I put my stuff in the cloud, isn't that going to be like, it's out in the cloud, it's out in the universe, everybody will be able to access it. Using the technology that's been built with SharePoint, and we'll get into this a little bit more, it's actually more secure to leverage that multi-billion-dollar investment that Microsoft has put into SharePoint. Just makes your stuff more secure.
Wait, you mean they spent more than I would have spent as an individual in protecting the environment?
Hey, look, if you spend billions of dollars on your server room in the office or at home, then maybe you're more secure than SharePoint or Microsoft. But generally, we find with most of the businesses and organizations we work with, that's not the case. Okay, so we're going to get into the meat of it. It's demo time. So now we're going to talk about how to use SharePoint. And we have 5 or 6, I think we got 6 different things that we're going to go through for how to use SharePoint. So we have, I'm going to close out our poll here and just do a final check. So 50% of people, so Jermaine, 60% of people are interested in sharing. Mm-hmm. Speaking of sharing is caring. So I'm going to just publish the results here. We had most of, about 80% of our folks that are on gave their opinion. So 60% are interested in document sharing, 50% are interested in version history, version control, how to deal with the versioning, and another 47% on multiple people working on the same document. So we'll spend the most time on that. If you have questions and you want to guide us in a certain direction over the next 15, 20 minutes, half an hour, pop something in the Q&A. We can show you stuff. We can make Jermaine do some fun stuff in terms of live demos that he's not ready for. He can think on the fly. All right, so Jermaine's going to fire up his screen. We're going to do a little live demo. We got a demo site set up for all of you, and the first area that we're going to show is how to access SharePoint. So we're going to blow through this one really fast because there wasn't a whole lot of interest, as much interest in this and the other areas. So Jermaine, what are the different ways that people can access SharePoint?
All right, so this one's important because some of the challenges we've seen in the past is that we roll this out with our clients and then people go away, they have an update and they can't find the link. How do I access SharePoint? So one of the things is just using straight out of your browser. So because of how our organization is set up, I'm going to go to an in private window here. I'm going to launch a brand new window, and there's just no avoiding it. So our organization is set up to really just direct us by default straight to our homepage. Okay. So we can do that for any organization, but let's say for demonstration's sake here, I'm gonna, no matter where I go, I can sign out of the Techify homepage. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'll sign out here. It'll knock me out of this browser. And then a couple of things we'll see here is you can just log in by going to just www.office.com. Okay. And you'd use, well, that decides to work is extra W in there. So there's first car fire, and then it did it again.
Fender bender. Don't worry, it's fender bender. So we've got web. We can access web it through the web, right?
And one of the things that we can do here is like it's unavoidable to not be able to log into your SharePoint because it's set as a default. It's a productivity standard that we work with here at Techify for our clients, and you can set it up as your default. But you really just go to office.com, log in with your username and password. The other thing that we can do is right away, just from an access perspective, is you can access it straight out of a brand new document. So I've created, just opened Word. I've created a brand new document here. And I can go ahead and say, you know what, let me go ahead and just open a different document altogether. So I went to File, Open. And when I go to File, Open, because I'm using the demo site here, I can just go File, Open, and it shows me all of the files that I have available. I can double click on a file and open it. So I'm actually logging in and accessing my SharePoint straight out of Word. And that's it. Like I can just go to File, Open, click on a document. I'm actually accessing documents from Microsoft Word.
And that's the most common way I access documents: Word, Excel, PowerPoint, etc. File open, file save. You can access it through the web. What are the two other ways that that we can access?
Two other cool ways, or third, would be to open it from Teams. So I go to my Teams, Microsoft Teams. Here's my demo site, the same demo site that I'm working on here in my browser, same demo site. I open it, I click on the General tab, I click on Files, and Bob's your uncle. I'm in SharePoint again, but I'm not going through the browser, or am I going through a Word document or Excel document to open it? Okay, that's two. And then the third one for, for you people out there who really love your File Explorer, just like me, okay? You open up File Explorer here, it's closed. I click on it.
Used to be called Windows Explorer, now called File Explorer.
Well, it's a good name, right? And they put it in there, so it's hard to miss. And then I come here and I've got my demo site pinned in my File Explorer. This demo site is the same one that I'm working with in SharePoint. So the file is sitting here via my File Explorer. So now I've accessed it 4 ways: Teams, the browser, Microsoft Word document, and straight out of my File Explorer. Really quick, really easy.
So the bottom line is, in order to access stuff in SharePoint, it's super easy, and you've got multiple options because everybody works differently. So you got different options that you can figure out what works best for you.
Yeah.
So next, let's talk about, this is the moment that you've all been waiting for, according to our poll. Let's talk about how to use real-time collaboration, or co-authoring, or working on the same document at the same time, or however you want to put it. One of the big benefits, one of the big reasons people move to SharePoint, and something that people want to know how to do right off the bat: how do we have multiple people working on the same document at the same time? So Jermaine, you and I always tell a story about our webinars when we're prepping for a webinar. We'll hop on a Teams call, we'll open up a PowerPoint presentation, we'll share it with each other, and then we're just we're throwing in slides, and we're adding and making changes. We're even doing like run throughs and practicing, and you're taking out a slide, or I'm taking out a slide while the other person's talking, and stuff like that. So this is the type of thing that we want to show other people how to do.
Which is great. And where'd my slide go is usually the biggest question we have, because of somebody deleted the other person's slide. Fun times. So again, I'm in the same demo site. All I've done here is, this is the home page that loads up, demo home. Here's everything on the site. I click on documents. Documents tab opens up. I can see the same set of documents here once it decides to open up. Now I'm going to click on that again. There it is. So I've got some documents somewhere here. There we go. Oh. All right. So I'm going to click on SharePoint. I've opened a file, and here's a file. So now I want to work with Brendan on this and collaborate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share the file with him by clicking that little button. Now that was pretty quick. I'm going to do it again. I highlight over the file, click on this little button that says share the selected item with other people. And then it brings up a number of ways for me to share it. Now, the quickest way to do this is, I would like to be able to just send Brendan an email and say, hey, here's the document, let's work. And I'll send him that. He'll get a notification, and then he'll join me in the document, okay? Now I'm gonna go ahead and open up the document. There's a document. And because I shared it with Brendan, I can see that he's in here. Yeah, and he's on page 1. So now this is our, our employment agreement template that we use when we're hiring new people, kind of set everybody up. And now we can go through, and instead of me filling this out, sending it to him, waiting 3 days for him to send it back to me and so forth, I say, hey, we're doing an agreement for a new person starting in a week and a half or 2 weeks. We'd like to go ahead and send this out. Let's jump in the document. Bob's your uncle. We go in and we, Bob is your uncle. We go in here and we just change this out. And then, if Bob is your uncle, he might be. Bob's your uncle, you go ahead and you move on. Brendan adds whatever he wants in. And at the same time, we're able to see everything that's going on in the document, right? And if we have any issues or challenges with this, and so that, this is a sneaky way of actually chatting with each other before you do anything. I wasn't going to show this today, but it's kind of an extra tidbit there. You can say, please stop doing that. Brendan's going to see comments. He's going to see the comments in his end. I could have just typed it in the document too, but that's fine. But if you want to mark up a document and say why we made a change or what the decision was in the document, we can go ahead and do that. So quite simply, if I start over all the way from scratch again, because I still have 30 seconds on this topic, I can come back here and all I did was highlight the document, hit the share button, send it to Brendan, open the document. Brendan's here. We work on the document together. And you can do this with as many people as you like. There is no limitation, although it will get pretty crazy if you've got 11 people in here trying to edit the same document. But again, one step at a time.
So while we're here, a couple other things let's go through. So you have a document, you shared it with me. We can both work on it at the same time. We can make changes, and we make these changes in real time. Mm-hmm. Allows us to edit things a lot quicker and all that sort of stuff, and even send those messages. And the other part that we get asked about with this, though, if you got multiple people working on the same document at the same time, what happens if somebody makes a change that you don't really like? Or how do you know what changes people have made, right? So is there a way that we can kind of do some version control? How do we tell if there's who made what changes? We want to revert back a couple versions, something like that.
Yeah, and that's a great question. So I mean, just in going back to the same folder again, it already tells me when the file was last modified and who by. Okay. Now to get into more detail around that, I want to understand what the version history of a document is, right? So with the same 3 dots, I haven't gone anywhere different. Same 3 dots that I would have come to share access. I can go here and it says version history. I click on that and it'll pull the history of that document and tell me, well, here are all the places where the document was saved. So it was saved here at 1:05 p.m. Jermaine did some stuff. Brendan was the last one to save it at 10:25 a.m. Because Brendan's apparently a time traveler. And based on that, I'll figure out why you're time traveling. Well,
it's a day later. It's a day later.
It is, yeah. So, I did it yesterday, you did it today. But the idea here is when we take a look at the document is it'll show you every version, and I can actually click on that and say, hey, I actually want to see the version from yesterday before Brendan started doing his mockups, and it'll actually open that new version right away.
So if I went in and I made some changes and put in the wrong salary and you wanted to go back and just say, no, we're not going to do that. It's as simple as that. And then you just restore version 1.
Correct. And then you can also restore an old version and save as it to something else, like, current version or whatever, based on what you want to do. So yeah, it's very easy to find the versions of a document.
So let's take that same document now, Jermaine, and talk about how do you revoke access, right? So you've shared something with me, but now you don't like my opinion anymore. You want to stop me from being able to go in it, or maybe you finalize the document. Or
well, it's final, so there's no reason for you to be shared in that document anymore. Let's go with that one. And then based on that, because I don't want it on the recording, me agreeing to not liking your opinion anymore. So based on that, You same 3 dots. You're not going anywhere except here's the document. Here are the 3 dots. What do I want to do? I want to manage access. It's important. I'm trying to revoke somebody's shared access that I provided. So I'm actually managing access. Okay. So it would be easy to say, hey, let me go look for revoke access. But because you're managing access entails both giving and removing, it's under manage access. So you click that. And what it does is it shows you everyone that has access to the document. And then you can simply go in there and just remove access from Brendan. Okay. So all I did there was the same way I close a window, there's a little X button there. I hit it and, you know, Bob's no longer your uncle. Brendan no longer has access to the document.
All
And you
right.
can do that for anyone. Doesn't matter where their email address is from or any of that. You can do it for anyone.
Yeah, so that's a good point. When you're sharing, you can share both internally and externally, and you can remove access both internally and externally as well, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Why don't we just go through the sharing again and just show those 2 examples of how to share internally and how to share externally.
Sure. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead here. It's the same share button, regardless of what you're doing. You click on that. And so you've got an option here to go ahead and decide what the person can do with the document. Okay. And so I'm going to click up here. And it says, okay, so the people that I'm sharing can be specific, people with existing access, people within Techify, and then anyone with the link. Okay. So all of these are going to be highlighted in one way or another.
And I just add, so you see that anyone with the link is grayed out, right? Because we don't allow that as an organization policy. And just to draw attention, we had somebody just posted a question: can you make something read only when you share it? So if you can show how to do that as well, Jermaine, that'd be great.
Absolutely. So for the benefit of here, we do have a public sharing site, which is very easy to set up as well, that has the anyone with the link button. We can talk about that at a different time. That's 201 stuff, but really we'll leave it here. So for now, I'm going to stick with specific people who can edit. Okay. And then from here, can I make it read only? Yes. So the little pencil here with the drop down button, I say I want this person to only view the document. They cannot make changes.
So you want my opinion, but you don't want me to actually be able to.
Correct. I'd like you to use the comment section on the side, not make the change in the document. So with that in mind, then I just go ahead and I type Brendan. There's Brendan. Okay. I also want to send it to my external. So I have a jermaine.techify@gmail.com, just in case somebody tried to steal that. And I go ahead and I add that in there. Okay. And I go ahead and hit send. And Bob's your uncle. Again, we're back to Bob. There you go. Brendan's been shared the link. Okay. And if, let's just say, oh no, I typed the wrong name. I got the wrong Brendan, because there's 18 Brendans in the organization. You go back to manage access and you're like, you know what? That was the wrong Brendan. I was too tired when I sent that out. So I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna remove him because I did it by accident. Or this Jermaine, and it even tells you I'm an external user that you shared the document with. I'm gonna go ahead and remove that because I meant it for internal Jermaine. So now external Jermaine no longer has access.
Okay, so while you're there, let's talk about, I think what we want to talk about next is, I think it's important for us to hit on the search functionality in SharePoint, because it's a really good piece of functionality that a lot of people don't know about or kind of assumes not as good as it is. So one of the things that causes a lot of pain and anguish, and there's been studies that say people spend as much as 20% of their time searching for files, trying to access information, access documents. And the search functionality in SharePoint has advanced dramatically over the past, I'd say 2 or 3 years particularly. So why don't we do a little, Jermaine, you want to do a little demo of, I don't really know what folder my document is. I sort of know what it's called. How do I find it?
Okay. So look, I'm going to go back to the all files section here. I'm going to go all the way back out to the demo site, primary. I see nothing. I need to find my file. I think the file is called document or agreement. So all I do is type agreement, hit enter, and SharePoint, because again, if you think about your classical folder structure on a file server, it goes level by level by level, which is harder to search because you're going 1, 2, 3, and it expands as you go. In SharePoint, it just searches everything that's publicly available within that site. So I typed agreement and it brought up every single thing that has the word agreement in it, with the most likely answer being at the top.
Yeah, it's using AI. It's saying, hey, this document was edited 9 minutes ago. It's probably the document that you're looking for, right?
Yeah. Have you ever had those things where you're like, hit save, and then you're like, wait a minute, where did I save the file? So you come back here and you just type the name that you think the file is called. Even if you are in, it's like, I know it's a document. Let me just type document. Oh, look, I actually have 2 files called document. Yeah, nice work. Oh, and there's the employment agreement because it falls under document. And you'll notice that it also went with Word because Word is a document, whereas a picture is a picture and an Excel file is an Excel file. So it actually sorted everything in your search category by things that are documents first, and then the most likely name of the document. So super important.
Okay, so
very straightforward.
That's how to find stuff. So we're going a little bit over time here.
Yeah.
I think we've covered everything. I just wanted to talk about security for a second here. So I'm going to do security wrap up, and then there's a few questions there that are being thrown into the Q&A panel. We're going to come back to those, especially Kelly's got a couple really good questions that I want to answer there. So let's just talk about for a sec how to secure. I know the cybersecurity, data security, that's not as exciting a topic, but it's really important to talk about security, right? These are your files. You're putting them in a cloud. You want to make sure that they're properly secured. So here's how things are secured in SharePoint. So you can, first of all, we're going to have multi-factor authentication, right? Everybody knows multi-factor authentication. If you don't have multi-factor authentication on something, that's a bad deal. Right? You can, with proper multi-factor authentication, you can eliminate 99% of hacker attacks, right? So if we have multi-factor authentication on our Microsoft account, it's going to secure that. In order to access our files in SharePoint, we need to have a Microsoft account. To log in, and Jermaine showed that sharing, we can say, hey, this is only accessible to people within Techify, within your company, or it's accessible to people outside. But specific people, there's ways to manage that. Then if you go to your much more secure or your much more sensitive documents, say you have some documents that have pricing information or accounting information or personal information of staff. So there's this thing called conditional access. And we've talked about this a little bit before. And we really like conditional access. See how Jermaine's smiling?
Yes, I like conditional access.
So
Takes
here's
all
what
the guesswork out of access.
Yeah. So, well, Jermaine, why don't you take that? What is conditional access? What's that mean?
Okay. So for someone to gain access to a file, and I think it may answer a couple of the questions that we have in the panel, but for someone to gain access to a file, even if they work at Techify, they have to meet specific conditions. So we've been doing this forever, right? In order for someone to be a teacher, they must have a education degree, they must have X number of years of experience, and so forth and so forth. If you're going to be a musician, if you're going to work at Costco, whatever, you need to have some form of conditions met in order for that employment to work. Same thing here. Conditional access designates computer must be a device owned by Techify, as an example. The computer must have Windows 10 with the current build version. The person accessing the computer must have multi-factor authentication in place, and the person must be located, the multi-factor authentication phone or device that's authenticating the person must actually be on the same IP address and location as the computer, right? If all of those conditions are not met, the person gets a big screen that says, contact your administrator. You've been locked out of your account.
So you're saying if I'm a Russian hacker and I stole credentials because I phished an employee and I tried to access their SharePoint, you're not going to let me access it because I'm not on a computer that's owned by the company and I'm not located in the right spot.
Correct. And specifically, the thing that's authenticating your computer isn't within range of the computer. Right?
Yeah.
That's a nice one. So, and it's cool because if I don't have my mobile phone next to me, which is my authentication device, and I pick it up and walk away from my desk, how much, I don't know about you guys, but I've forgotten to go Windows lock and close my computer before I leave. But once my phone gets out of range of my computer, it turns it off. So it's not met the condition that my phone is within earshot of my computer. So it's super cool, which is why I'm so excited about it.
So the other piece here is you can even add extra securities to specific documents. So if you've got the secret sauce document that has all your company secrets in an Excel or a Word document, and key employee Tom or Sally downloads it onto their computer, puts it on a USB stick, then resigns, goes to the competitor, plugs it into their new computer at the competitor, double clicks, that document is going to go and check back with your Microsoft 365 and says, does Bob or Sally at new company with different email address, do they have access to this document? And it's going to say no, they're not going to be able to open that document, even though they have a copy of that document on a portable drive. So huge advance in security. So that's just a couple of the ways that you can secure your SharePoint site. So we're going to get to questions right now. As always, if anybody has any one-to-one questions, I see a number 8 in the Q&A panel. So I want to get to questions, but here's how to contact Jermaine or I if you want to follow up after the fact. If you're thinking about SharePoint, if you have any follow-up questions, if you want to move to SharePoint, that sort of thing, just reach out to us. As you can tell, we like talking about SharePoint.
And all the webinars are recorded and available on our website within 48 hours of the webinar. So you can view the webinar recording there as well after the fact.
Yeah, and our fantastic marketing person, Sandra, is actually going to cut up the different parts of these demos that we've done and put them into short little kind of 2 or 3 minute videos that we're going to have available moving forward. So when folks are, adoption is a challenge, right? Because SharePoint's different. So when folks are about to implement SharePoint, or if they've already implemented SharePoint, we're going to have these different videos available so you can send them out to your staff and say, hey, not sure how to access SharePoint, watch this 2-minute video. So we're going to do some updated stuff. All right, so let's go in order. We've got a lot of stuff here. So it's great. Lots of people asking questions. So Jermaine, first one from Jessica, does it mean SharePoint is structured like the company organization's own OneDrive?
So not exactly. The differentiator here would be because the company or the organization's data is within the Microsoft 365 tenant, it's actually structured more like a swimming pool. So all the water's in the swimming pool, and you can jump in at any point in the swimming pool, and you'd still be in the common pool of water. So the company's document structure is realistically, that's what makes searching and finding documents and utilization so easy, is because it's a giant pool. So it doesn't matter, the line of sight to your data is all the same, no matter where you are in the pool. Your line of sight to the data is the same. It's all around you. So it's more of a kind of a hub and spoke scenario where the data is here and you can go to wherever you want. And your OneDrive is one of the spokes coming out of that data, where you then organize your OneDrive to suit you based on the data, not the company data being organized like your OneDrive.
I was at a meeting last week with an accountant who was going through and showing how they'd arranged their company files. Like they had tons and tons of clients. And they spent sort of years building and refining their folder structure and how they made it really easy for their staff to find all the entities related to if they have a client that say had 15 different companies, how they arrange that all in their file structure. And he said to me, can this move to SharePoint? And absolutely, yeah, you can create, whether it's OneDrive or SharePoint, you can create whatever folder structure you want. So if your folder structure, and that's a really good question, because we do get asked this, like, well, we've been using the S drive forever. Can we make the folders look? Yeah, you make it look exactly the same if you like it.
My question always back is, well, do you really want to do that though? Right. So if you think about it, like, you've taken the pains of showing all the different companies related to this big company, but you can just create a SharePoint site that says Techify, and everything for Techify is in that SharePoint site. So when you click on Techify, there's no missing companies that are associated with Techify, because everything is owned by that Techify SharePoint site. And then you just create a new SharePoint site for the next company. And then that way, everybody's data is secured. And at that point now, you can actually, this comes into the sharing portion, because if you're like us and you have clients that you work with that you want to share stuff with, you don't want to go through this arduous process, you just give the company administrator access to their SharePoint site. So now everything that you do on that SharePoint site related to the client, they have access to already. You don't need to go through this, set up an FTP and share a file or any of that stuff, right? So it's kind of cool, but you can keep the structure you want, but it's cool because you can learn, there's a new way to do it that just makes it easier, right? Doesn't take as long.
All right, so let's keep moving along here. We answered Brittany's question already about can you make Access read only when you share? So let's go to Kelly. So this is a good one. Is there a reason to not use the anyone with a link option when you were sharing?
Is there a reason not to use it? There is no reason to use the anyone with the link option.
Yeah, I'm really concerned about this, and this is why we have, like, one of our intelligent technology best practices standards is we turn this off.
Yeah, it's off completely.
Because yeah, it allows a document to be accessed by anybody in the universe anywhere. So like, you can, in OneDrive, sometimes you have situations where, you know, maybe your kid's hockey team or dance group, competitive dance group or something, I'm just talking about my own experience, you want to send out an Excel document and have people fill in a bunch of stuff, then you want to be able to use an anyone with a link option. But if you're anything that's remotely confidential, you want to put in people's email addresses so that you can control the access.
And this goes to the same for your personal email, right? Let me turn it around a little bit. Let's say you're on your work computer, you logged into your personal email, and you go to share a file with someone, but you accidentally shared, you know, pictures from the bachelor party last weekend. Okay. So you go and you accidentally share that out, and you send it to everybody on your leadership team at your company. Now, if you have only specific people with edit and within the organization, as an example, people in your organization go to click on that, they can't access it because it'll ask you for permission for them to access it because they're outside of your security group, for your personal email. So realistically, gone are the days where your boss is going to see your you know, that photo of you dancing on stage, singing or doing the Macarena, right? Like, that's gone, because you can apply it to your personal life as well, right? My aunt's in a church group, and, you know, because I'm in IT, I get phone calls all the time about stuff. One of the people were doing the children's camp stuff, and instead of inviting the parent of the child, they invited a construction company. So the construction company had access to the whole children's camp outline of the program that they were going to run that summer. And the guy responded back and was like, "Hey man, do you need me to do tiles or something for this? Or like, why are you emailing me this?" And like, "Oh, oops, not necessary," right? So realistically, if you do the anyone link, it gives access. You can't save the file and protect the file externally. So there really is no reason that you should. It's always better to stick with specific sharing.
Cool. Okay, we got a bunch of other ones we got to go through here. Kelly, I think this is a quick one. Jermaine, if you want to take it, what does an external user see when they receive a document via SharePoint? Do they have to enter in an authorization code from Microsoft before they can view the document that you've shared?
The answer is yes. Kelly answered her own question by providing that. It sends out whatever type of notification you want. And it then sends they can either get their own notification or they can send an email back to you saying, Kelly, please approve access. This person at this email address is trying to access the file. So there are multiple ways to do it. But yeah, one of them is that they would get an authentication code to the correct email address to then access the file.
Okay, good. Our next question. I'd be interested to learn how to create a SharePoint site, more specifically looking to create a landing page for our SharePoint portal. Would like to have links, news, shared, calendar, etc. on this site.
Okay. So two things. One, it's good. I would say if you're doing it for your personal data, information, and so forth, great. Videos are available. We actually work with some of our clients to help them go through that process so that they can see it. If you are doing it for something that's across your organization, I would recommend that you have someone fully trained in designing and or configuring the permissions on that site, do the site. You can still all have all the creative ownership that you want, how you want it to look, content, everything. And you can be an administrator later on to add and update content. I wouldn't recommend doing it for yourself, for your organization by yourself. Have somebody do it so that it matches what your permission structure is, because it just takes one wrong click and the entire site's become public when it really should be have restrictions based on permissions for the site. Okay.
I mean, I think what Schlaga, if I've pronounced the name correctly, was maybe looking at that kind of site that you opened up, which is sort of our Techify site that's got some kind of key links and some HR information and some key phone numbers, and is that sort of launching point that is bookmarked. Yeah, when you started Techify, you don't have an option of what your bookmarked homepage is. It is your Techify SharePoint page.
But yeah, we've got tons of easy videos and things that we've made internally that we can share to show that to our clients.
It's a good point though, like doing it yourself, unless you really understand it, there's a lot of stuff in the back end of SharePoint that it's easy to mess up. I think Brittany had a quick question. So what if I left my phone at home? I think this was in relation to
the proximity of your computer.
Yeah.
If you're prone to leaving your stuff at home, including your phone, you'll have two problems. Any multi-factor authentication you'll have a challenge with. So drive home, get your phone. Otherwise, there are options. You can, reach out to ask one of your colleagues to reach out to IT and have them change and update your policy so that it doesn't include your phone. That's a lot to go through.
Here's the other thing you can do. You can do what I do. If I forget my phone at home, I call my wife and say, honey, can you read the code off that just came into my phone and tell me so that I can log into my computer at work? That's
fair. That's a good one. That's a
true story.
Yeah. And if you're like me, you leave your computer at home, just drive back home, work from home.
Yeah, well, it depends your commute, right?
Right.
I'm not sure I know the answer to this. You probably know the answer to it. So Lewis is asking, can you tag files for easy finding?
Absolutely. Yes. The answer is yes. You can create your own tags and just put them into a group or category that you want. Color code it as well if you feel like. But yeah, the answer is yes.
Okay, let's do. Let me see. Let's do two more. We'll do two more because one is quick. I see a question. Is SharePoint collaboration limited to PowerPoint and Word?
The answer is no. Any document that you can edit, PDF, the limitations are, everyone has to be able to have the right licensing to access the document. So as an example, if you have, I'm using one PDF type of editor reader and you're using a different one, you need to be in the same type of editor in order to collaborate on a PDF. But the answer is no, you can collaborate on anything. You can even edit videos and browse stuff in your SharePoint altogether.
Yeah, and so for all the accountants out there too, Excel Excel, we use Excel for concurrent collaboration all the time. So add Excel to that list. Okay, and then last question, and then we're going to sign off. Do you have a change management process you advocate to improve user adoption? Do you want to take this, or you want me to answer this one?
I don't know. I don't think my answer is a good one. My answer is hire a bunch of people that want to learn about it, and then you won't have that problem. So maybe you should take that one.
So I think that's a good point. There has to be an expectation with your team that they need to use new technology, but new technology is hard, right? So, and everybody learns a little bit differently, right? Some people will learn on, I'll watch 5 or 10 or 30-minute videos. So some people you could send this webinar to and say, watch this, and they'll be better on adoption. Some people need to work with somebody else. Sometimes you need to do workshop sessions. We do have a process when we implement SharePoint to our clients that there's a bunch of videos and there's a bunch of information and documentation we will send out in advance. We will ask our key point of contact at the client to be warning people it's coming, telling them it's coming. We do things, ease of use type of stuff, like what we talked about with the bookmarks and landing pages. And so if you make it easier for people to access, it's easier for them to change, right?
And one of the other ones that we do is we do change power. We do train power users. So we'll go through full 1-hour sessions with the power users as many times as we need to enable them to also kind of lead the change internally as well. Yeah.
Okay, so one of the things we like to do is make sure that we have transitions between meetings and we're not back to back. So we're going to leave it. We're going to leave it here. Thank you very much for all the questions, for all the people that joined our webinar. And for the feedback, if you can provide us feedback on this webinar, you'll get a little survey afterwards. When we see this kind of attendance and registration and stuff like that, it buoys us. It gives us energy and enthusiasm to keep doing more and more of these webinars, to move on to webinar number 22, which next month will be on Teams. Jermaine, thank you very much for joining us.
Always a pleasure to be here. Thank you everyone for joining. Take care.
Have a great day.